Right, well, I'm probably going to be savaged in the comments for this, but here we go. It may have taken the current generation a good year and a half to initially kick in, but suffice it to say we're enjoying some of the finest titles not only of the ongoing decade, but of all time. That said, there are some cracks. Overall, we're still chasing that perfect game, and many of the following did come mighty close, selling supremely healthy amounts of copies to guarantee sequels that could right potential wrongs, but they weren't without notable blemishes in the first place. I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 worst parts of 2018's biggest video games. Number 10, the complete lack of a party dynamic. Octopath Traveler. It's a return to old school RPGs, they said. That is so long overdue, we can't wait, we said. Turns out, although Octopath Traveler absolutely nails its snappy combat, world aesthetic, plot drive, and opening chapters of all 8 heroes, none of this coalesces into a lovable group adventure. Instead, and truly bizarrely, characters walk up to others that are recruitable, you tap to interact, and after a flashback explaining their side of things, they're in your party. Simple as. Repeat another handful of times to get the full squad, and despite everyone now moving as a unit, the game treats the storytelling as a series of individual journeys. Party chatter can sporadically appear with a button press that triggers a cutaway featuring 2 or more characters in an isolated dark room, but there's nothing in the way of everyone's opinions and experiences factoring into the overall progression. Just why? Number 9, empty quest design, Sea of Thieves. For the opening 20 minutes, Sea of Thieves is genuinely amazing. You're working with a group of friends or matched online players, and you're raising, lowering sails, swilling grog, shooting skeletons, and fighting other ships. And then the inevitable happens. Okay, this is fun, but what are we supposed to be doing? Sea of Thieves struggles to answer. The game's quest design is almost entirely based on fetching items or slowly sailing to a place just to kill a target before sailing back again. The former leaves you open to other players stealing your gear, and the latter forces you to try and enjoy some notably stale combat. Rare have attempted to remedy this with DLC packs both available and upcoming, but they seem unable to give Sea of Thieves a meaningful gameplay loop. Number 8, the infuriating charge and trick shot controls, Mario Tennis Aces. A glorious return to arcade tennis games it was, but Mario Tennis Aces made one critical, infuriating mistake, making the charge shot button be the same as just returning a ball. It means your character will end up rooted to the spot, standing stock still as they charge their swing when all you want to do is hit the ball. It happens if you hit a button even a millisecond too early, and the problem is all over the game's various forums, resulting in many players giving up altogether. Another bugbear is how double tapping the same shot buttons locks you into a trick shot animation, something that requires specific court placement and will likely see your character walk or dance away from the ball instead. Hit the button too early and you'll stand still, twice and you'll mess up way more obviously. It can really feel like the game is cheapening you out of otherwise solid play. Number 7, playing co-op actually breaks the game. Kirby Star Allies. Kirby was never built to be a party game or a 4-player adventure, and yet in the struggle to think of something meaningful to bolt onto the little guy for his Switch debut, we got exactly that. Sadly though, Kirby's side-scrolling nature only serves whoever's at the front of the pack. Level designs and enemy amounts only benefit a single player, meaning all those in tow are left to run behind or activate powers that hit no one. When you have to actively kill off your companions just to enjoy the game as a more traditional Kirby experience, that's really saying something. Number 6, ditching the franchise identity, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Let's just call this right now. Assassin's Creed Odyssey is gonna cause some ructions. Not only is it the first Assassin's Creed since the Ezio trilogy to really obviously reuse assets and the general look of gameplay, something that didn't really matter as Ezio himself carried across back then, but Odyssey is going full-on hack-and-slash action, rather than anything rooted in stealth or, being an assassin. Supernatural weapons and items are in, as are overblown bosses, ground-pound shockwaves, and crowd-clearing specials. Initial gameplay has shown factional wars where you're amongst enemy troops, cleaving your way through scores of them like it's Ubisoft's take on Dynasty Warriors. It'll all certainly be fun and enjoyable as a button-mashing loot grinder. Triggering a special does come with a screen shake and bass boom sound effects, but does anybody actually want that from this franchise? Number 5, the first 30 hours of Kingdom Come Deliverance. Kingdom Come Deliverance is actually one of the most refreshingly old-school RPGs in years. Think a historically accurate, realistic Elder Scrolls. Once you get the hang of using a bow and arrow without aiming a reticule, or you know how to read an opponent during a sword fight through his mannerisms alone, everything starts to click. That click, though, it comes after a good 20 to 30 hours. The opening of the game is a straight-up slog, filled with fetch quests, go-nowhere conversations, and areas that only serve to waste your time. You don't even get to wield a sword until after that sizable introduction, and that goes double for being let loose on the world itself. Naturally, this ends up boxing Kingdom Come in with other games that get really good after 20 hours, but such an ask means the vast majority of people will never touch it. Number 4, the opening hours are sporadic as hell, God of War. Oh god, look, I'm sorry, okay? I noticed something that was wrong with the almighty God of War. Yes, it's still Game of the Year so far, but this is worth pointing out. So look, speaking of openings that belie their game's true greatness, God of War's first 3 to 5 are all over the place. Combat-wise, you're without enough XP to open up the various chainable moves, deflections, and runes that make the whole system so satisfying, falling back on rote, light-heavy combos as the same finisher animations repeat themselves ad nauseum. For the story, we ping-pong between the cremation of Kratos' wife, straight into a gameplay-heavy hunting sequence, into a couple of boss battles, and jarringly back into grumpy Kratos and his innocent son once again. It genuinely feels like the game is struggling to find its footing, both tonally and in gameplay, though given full context, these seeds do grow into phenomenally worthwhile story and gameplay arcs. It's just something of a shame that God of War doesn't play its opening hand of cards more comfortably. Number 3, it's completely tone deaf. Detroit Become Human. Although Detroit Become Human is David Cage's tightest effort in terms of plot holes and character motivations that make zero sense once the full story has rolled out, the game really wants to be everything from Blade Runner to a civil rights educational piece. Not saying there isn't a way to do this, but with Cage's leaden approach to writing, we get everything from the 1968 raised fist symbol being slapped on a wall as a piece of robot-empowering graffiti, to androids sitting at the back of the bus, to Minority Report-style future tech crime sequences. Oh, and plenty of rooftop chases, martial arts fighting sequences, messianic The Matrix-esque He's the One revelations, and everything else in between. Every interaction between characters feels like a daytime soap opera, but when paired with subject matter that requires respect when handling or going anywhere near, Detroit just ends up jarring with itself at every turn. Number 2, the ending, Far Cry 5. For the entirety of Far Cry 5, you're fed this narrative of one Joseph Seed's overblown persona being tied to a religious apocalypse, or at least his attempt to establish a following to save as many people as possible. Of course, it's done in a full-on join us or die kind of way, but come the close of the game, if you decide to fight and arrest Seed, the end times actually come. Potentially explainable as Joseph and his crew acquiring a bunch of nuclear weapons, though then the question becomes how, and why didn't law enforcement find them after the player cleared each compound? The whole game just goes off the rails. The sequence devolves into racing through burning forests and blood-red skies. A literal apocalypse. Feeling as though Ubisoft needed to design something that was notably over the top as a way to escape the game's pre-release marketing centering on Far Cry 5 being a comment on Culture War America, it's an overly wacky climax and just feels out of place. Number 1, every NPC and their animations. We Happy Few. Sadly, despite We Happy Few looking to mix Bioshock-style environment scouring with Orwellian overtones, the result, after a 2-year delay, is possibly the most broken game of the year. Not just a few quests don't trigger properly or this character's face doesn't animate, oh no, this is a level of reliable broken, where every player has experienced something genuinely unfinished within the first few moments. The state of the game has understandably been showcased across social media, with gifs of floating characters, players falling through the floor, conversations not loading, and gameplay mechanics not working whatsoever. We Happy Few might have had the world's attention, but in a tragic move for the developers, this final product still needs a substantial amount of work. And that's been my list. Let me know down in the comments below if there were any other parts of 2018's biggest games that kinda jarred with you. Don't forget to check out the WhatCulture Gaming Podcast, and I'll catch you soon.